I-32F. Never imagined I'd be sharing my story on Reddit, but here I am, feeling the weight of every word I type. My world has been turned upside down in ways I never could have predicted. I, Avery Mitchell, a senior project manager at a Silicon Valley tech company, was thrown out of my family's life. And why? Because I dared to pursue my MBA dreams without their precious help. And my sister, Paige, the golden child, couldn't handle it. It's a long story, but I need to share it. Maybe some of you can offer advice, or at least a virtual shoulder to cry on. My hands are trembling as I type this. The memories still fresh and painful. Let me paint you a picture of my family dynamics. I've always been the outsider, the last pick, the one who never quite belonged. It was crystal clear from day one that my sister, Paige Holloway, was the favorite. Growing up in our Silicon Valley suburb, my parents would throw a parade if she got an A. When I got an A. Oh, that's nice, honey. Did you see the photos from Paige's Harvard Business School graduation? Wasn't she stunning? Paige was the quintessential golden child. Everything seemed to come effortlessly to her. She was more outgoing, more conventionally attractive, more successful in our parents' eyes. School plays. Leading role. Sports team. Team captain. Grades. Perfect scores. Meanwhile, I was the awkward tech geek who preferred coding in my room to being in the spotlight. My parents, Nicholas and Eleanor Mitchell, were completely enamored with Paige, treating her like she was some kind of prodigy. They funded everything for her: her Harvard Business School tuition, designer wardrobe, luxury apartment in the Bay Area, even her extravagant spring break trips to the Maldives. They wouldn't stop bragging to anyone who'd listen about their successful daughter and her role in expanding our family's restaurant business. I kept my head down and accepted that I'd have to make it on my own. Despite juggling student loans and part-time coding jobs throughout college, I graduated with honors from Stanford in computer science. But was there a celebration? Hardly. My mother's only response was, "That's nice, dear. Have you seen Paige's latest Instagram post about the restaurant's expansion? She's doing such amazing things." Present day. These days, I'm managing successful projects at a leading tech company. It's a good job that pays well, but I've always dreamed of more. I want to climb higher, maybe launch my own startup, or break into upper management. So I decided to apply for an MBA program at a prestigious university. The catch: the tuition is astronomical. We're talking six figures. I thought maybe, just maybe, my parents might help me out. After all, they'd funded Paige's entire education, right? One evening, after a family dinner at their upscale restaurant, I gathered my courage. To my frustration, the conversation kept revolving around Paige's latest achievement in expanding the family restaurant chain. I carefully laid out my plan, walked them through the program details, explained how it would advance my career, and then delicately broached the subject of tuition assistance. The looks on their faces. You'd think I'd asked them to sell their restaurant or something. "We simply can't fund your tuition," they said outright. Fair enough. I get that MBAs are expensive, but what really got to me was their flat-out refusal to even co-sign a loan. I wasn't asking them to foot the entire bill like they did for Paige. I just needed their help to avoid drowning in debt for the next decade. Their reasoning? "We've already covered Paige's education. We need to think about our future now." The worst part: they were planning to pour more money into expanding the restaurant chain. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. In our family's private WhatsApp group, I typed out, "So you could afford Paige's entire Harvard education, but you can't even co-sign a loan for me?" My mother's response appeared instantly. "Well, honey, Paige's education was an investment in the family business. You're getting an MBA. That's just for you, isn't it?" "Just for me?" The words stung like a slap across the face. as if I wasn't family, as if my success meant nothing to them. I sat there in their restaurant, surrounded by the hustle and bustle of dinner service, feeling completely alone. The fancy decor and clinking wine glasses suddenly felt suffocating. While they had no problem pouring money into Paige's ventures, when it came to me, they had to be prudent and frugal. Later that week, I had no choice but to reach out to my Aunt Victoria. Now let me tell you about my father's older sister, Dr. Victoria Lawrence. She's quite different from my parents. She's a successful neurosurgeon at a prestigious hospital, and despite her achievements, she's incredibly down to earth. There's always been this palpable tension between her and my parents. At family gatherings, they'd put on polite faces, but I could sense their resentment of her success. My father, Nicholas, particularly hated feeling overshadowed by his older sister. When I was younger, I'd overheard heated arguments where he accused Victoria of being condescending and making him look bad. I was hesitant to involve her at first, but desperation has a way of pushing you past your comfort zone. I sent her a WhatsApp message asking if we could talk. When we met at her favorite coffee shop near the hospital, I explained everything: my MBA aspirations, my parents' refusal to help, and how much this opportunity meant to me. Aunt Victoria didn't hesitate for a second. "Of course I'll help," she said, stirring her cappuccino. "Why didn't you come to me sooner? I'd be honored to invest in your future. I've always seen such potential in you, Avery." Her words wrapped around me like a warm blanket, but anxiety still gnawed at my stomach. "Dad will lose it if he finds out I went behind his back to ask you for money," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Understanding the complicated family dynamics at play, I begged Aunt Victoria to keep this between us. She agreed, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand reassuringly. A few weeks later, for a while, everything seemed perfect. My tuition was secured, and I was preparing to start my MBA program. I felt both nervous and excited about the future. For once in my life, I felt like I was winning. That's when Paige decided to destroy everything. The betrayal. I'm still not sure how Paige discovered I'd asked Aunt Victoria for help. Maybe she snooped through my WhatsApp messages when I left my phone unattended, or perhaps she overheard a conversation. But she did find out, and being the golden child, she couldn't let it go. She had to turn it into a dramatic production worthy of her Harvard Business School theatrics. I came home one evening, exhausted from work but excited to share some news about my upcoming MBA orientation. The moment I stepped into our family restaurant for our weekly dinner, I could sense something was wrong. The usually bustling restaurant was closed early, and the atmosphere was thick with tension. My heart sank as I walked to the private dining room. Everything I owned, my laptop, work documents, even my old Stanford coding projects, was packed up in boxes. It felt like they were trying to erase any trace of my existence. Paige stood off to the side in her designer suit, wearing that smug, self-satisfied expression I'd grown to hate, while our parents sat at the table, their faces a mix of disappointment and rage. It felt like I'd walked into some twisted intervention. My father, Nicholas, didn't waste any time. "Explain this," he demanded, throwing a stack of papers across the table. With shaking hands, I picked them up, and that's when I realized Paige had completely lost her mind. She had fabricated an entire WhatsApp conversation thread between Aunt Victoria and me, making it look like I was betraying the family. The messages suggested I was trading our family restaurant's secrets for tuition money, recipes, supplier contracts, and even financial details. Things I never had access to, but Paige did. I stared at the screen in disbelief. Paige had taken snippets of my actual conversations with Aunt Victoria, then used her tech-savvy marketing team to modify them, painting me as some kind of corporate spy. The timestamps, the message formats, even the read receipts, everything looked perfectly authentic. This isn't real, I stammered, my tech background screaming at me to point out the digital manipulation. These messages are fake. I would never do this. The confrontation. But my parents wouldn't even listen. My mother, Eleanor, was crying, while my father's face had turned an alarming shade of red. "We trusted you, and you stabbed us in the back," he shouted, his voice echoing off the restaurant's expensive decor. They believed Paige, of course they did. They always believed her. It was like I had become invisible. All my years of being the good daughter, working hard, staying out of trouble. None of it mattered. I knew right then that I would always be second best in their eyes. They would always doubt me. "Get out," my father said, his voice ice cold. "We won't have a traitor in this family." I tried to reason with them. I attempted to explain about the MBA and how Aunt Victoria was just helping me, the same way they had helped Paige with Harvard. My parents didn't care. I wanted to tell them about how Aunt Victoria believed in me, but I couldn't bring myself to burden her more than I already had. They called me a traitor and refused to speak to me. Paige just stood there the whole time, her smug expression never wavering. Her eyes said what words didn't need to. She had won. The sister she always saw as a threat was finally being eliminated. The departure. That was it. I left with just a few boxes of belongings and the clothes on my back. I could see our neighbors peering through the restaurant windows as I loaded my Tesla, probably wondering about the drama unfolding in the Mitchell family's perfect facade. I felt completely alone, betrayed, and humiliated. The moment I was in my car, I pulled out my phone and called Aunt Victoria, crying so hard I could barely speak. Without asking any questions, she told me to come to her penthouse immediately. I don't know how I would have survived without her. I'm currently living in Aunt Victoria's guest suite, and she's still committed to helping with my MBA. She's been an incredible support system. But I can't forget that night. Paige standing there in her Chanel suit with that triumphant look, knowing she'd won, and my parents glaring at me like I was some criminal. All my possessions packed away when I walked into what I thought was just another family dinner. Reddit, I'm lost. Part of me wants to fight back, to prove Paige's messages were doctored. If I put my tech skills to use, I could probably find evidence of the digital manipulation. But another part of me wants to cut all ties and never look back. Why should I fight for people so eager to believe the worst of me? Present struggles. How do I process this betrayal, knowing my own family abandoned me? How do I move forward? My MBA program starts in a few weeks, and I should be excited. Instead, I'm dealing with this emotional trauma. I keep replaying everything in my mind, wondering if I missed the signs. Was Paige always this calculating? Were my parents always this ready to discard me? How can I trust anyone again after this? Aunt Victoria keeps telling me to focus on the opportunities my MBA will bring for my future. She says success is the best revenge, even though it's hard to see past the hurt and anger right now. I could use some advice here. How do I rebuild my life when my own sister would go to such lengths to hurt me? How do I handle networking and group projects in my MBA program when I feel so broken inside? I feel like I'm drowning in the tech world's fake it till you make it culture. Throw me a lifeline. Reddit. Update. 3 years later. It's been 3 years since I last posted about my family throwing me out. A lot has changed. I wanted to share how things have progressed. First, I completed my MBA program, which transformed me completely. Despite my emotional turmoil when I started, I channeled all that energy into my studies. I graduated top of my class. It wasn't easy, but that insecure girl who always felt inferior, she's gone. In her place is a woman who knows her worth and isn't afraid to show it. Post-graduation, I landed a position at a leading Silicon Valley consulting firm. The work is challenging, but I love it. For the first time in my life, I'm in an environment where my skills and hard work are genuinely valued. No more living in anyone's shadow. Through all of this, Aunt Victoria has been my rock. She's become the family I never truly had, not just a place to stay. We have weekly dinners where we discuss everything from her most challenging surgical cases to my latest consulting projects. I've learned so much from her about standing up for myself and recognizing my own worth. The unexpected visit. 3 years of radio silence from Paige and my parents. No WhatsApp messages, no emails, no calls. It hurt at first, but as time passed, I realized their absence was allowing me to grow in ways I never could have under their shadow. I've built a life I'm proud of, free from the need for constant approval and comparisons. But life has a way of throwing curveballs. Last Saturday, just when I thought I had everything figured out, Paige showed up at my office building. I barely recognized her. Gone was the polished Silicon Valley executive look. She was wearing a basic sweater and worn jeans, her hair hastily pulled back, with dark circles under her eyes. She looked defeated. "Hey," she said in a small voice. "Can we talk?" Curiosity won over my impulse to have security escort her out. I led her to a nearby coffee shop, the same one where Aunt Victoria had offered to help me 3 years ago. Paige sat uncomfortably, fidgeting with her paper cup. "I need your help," she finally blurted out. "The restaurant chain. We're in trouble. Serious trouble." She explained how the family business was on the verge of bankruptcy. Our parents' grand expansion plans had turned into a complete disaster. They'd overextended themselves, taking out massive loans, and now they were drowning in debt. "Dad's talking about filing for bankruptcy." Her voice cracked. "Mom's a mess, and I don't know what to do. I've tried everything, but I can't fix this." As I listened, I experienced a mix of emotions. There was a sick sense of satisfaction. Wasn't this karma for how they'd treated me? But there was also a twinge of, not quite pity, but something close. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, keeping my voice level. "What do you expect me to do?" Paige looked at me with desperate eyes. "You're doing so well with your consulting career and MBA, I thought. Maybe you could help. Give some advice, or—" She didn't finish the sentence, but I understood what she was asking. She wanted money. The golden child coming to the black sheep for rescue. The irony was almost too much. The confrontation at the coffee shop. "Let me get this straight," I said, maintaining my professional consulting tone. "After everything that happened, after 3 years of silence, you show up asking for help?" Paige had the grace to look ashamed. "I know I messed up," she said quietly. "I was jealous, okay? You were always so capable and smart. I lost it when I found out Aunt Victoria was helping you. I'm sorry." A simple sorry after 3 years. It was laughably inadequate. "Sorry doesn't cut it, Paige," I responded. "You have no idea what I've been through because of what you did." "I know," she replied, tears welling in her eyes. "But we're still family, aren't we?" Family helps each other. Just, please think about it. Family. The word hit me hard. After everything that had happened, were we still family? I told Paige I needed time to think. She left her business card with a disappointed look and walked out. A week later, and now here I am, trying to decide what to do. On one hand, I've worked hard to build this new life for myself. I've finally freed myself from the family drama, the constant comparisons, the feeling of inadequacy. Do I really want to get tangled up in all of that again? But a small part of me still cares. When I think about my parents facing bankruptcy, I feel something. Not quite pity, but not indifference either. There's a part of me that sees this as an opportunity to show them what they lost when they threw me out, to finally prove that I'm not the failure they always thought I was. But is it worth it after how they treated me? Do I owe them anything? And would things really change, even if I did help? Or would I always be the second best daughter, no matter what I do? The final confrontation. I've been mulling it over for the past few days, but I'm still unsure. One part of me wants to step up, be the bigger person, and help pull them out of this mess. It might be a chance to rebuild our relationship on more equal terms. But another part of me is screaming to run away. I'm still healing from the deep wounds they inflicted. Would I really want to expose myself to that pain again? Aunt Victoria and I have discussed it over our weekly dinner. As always, she's been supportive, telling me she'll back whatever decision I make. But she warned me too. Sometimes helping others means setting yourself on fire to keep them warm, she said between bites of her grilled salmon. Make sure you're not sacrificing yourself for people who wouldn't do the same for you. At the office, I've been distracted at work lately, and my colleagues have noticed. Some have listened sympathetically, but I've kept the details vague. One of my fellow consultants said, "Sometimes the most professional thing you can do is maintain boundaries between your personal life and work." That phrase has stuck with me. I keep thinking about all those MBA case studies on crisis management and corporate turnarounds. I probably could help them create a strategy to get out of this situation. But should I? Am I responsible? What about Paige's apology? Is it enough? Is this just another manipulation, or can I believe she's genuinely sorry? I'm also concerned about my own financial security. While I'm doing well now, I'm not exactly rolling in Silicon Valley money. Helping them could jeopardize my own future plans. One thing's certain. This time, whatever I decide, it will be on my terms. I'm not that insecure, scared girl anymore. Whatever happens with my family, I'll always be the strong, accomplished woman who knows her worth. What do you think, Reddit? Should I prioritize my own well-being and let my family face the consequences of their choices, or should I offer help? I could really use an outside perspective on this. The unexpected office visit. It's me again, Reddit. Things have taken an insane turn since my last update, and I can't believe I'm back so soon. Remember how I was debating whether to help my family with their restaurant crisis? Well, the universe decided to throw me another curveball. My parents showed up at my office a week after Paige's visit. Yes, you read that right. My office. They somehow tracked down where I work and just appeared in the lobby one afternoon. Talk about a system shock. I was in the middle of a client meeting when my assistant messaged me on our internal system. "Two people claiming to be your parents are asking to see you." My heart nearly stopped. I excused myself from the meeting, feeling like I was walking to my own execution as I headed to the lobby. There they stood, my parents looking older and more worn than I remembered. Dad's shoulders were slumped in a way I'd never seen before, and Mom's hair had turned completely gray. We just stared at each other for a moment, 3 years of silence hanging between us. "We need to talk," Dad finally said in a gruff but strangely small voice. At the local coffee shop. I took them to a nearby coffee shop, not wanting to have this conversation at my workplace. An uncomfortable silence settled over us as we sat with our drinks. I was determined not to make this easy for them, so I waited for them to speak. Mom broke first. "We were wrong," she said, her voice shaking. "We should never have thrown you out. We should have listened to you. We're so sorry." I'd imagined this moment countless times over the last 3 years. But now that it was actually happening, I felt nothing. Just an empty hollowness. No relief. No joy. Not even anger. "You should come home," Dad said, his voice strained. "We can get through this rough patch as a family again." I took a sip of my coffee to buy time. Why now? I finally asked. Why after 3 years of silence? They looked at each other, and I knew there was more to this story. As they started explaining, the depth of their desperation became clear. The truth comes out. The restaurant chain wasn't just in financial trouble. It was a complete disaster. On top of overextending with the expansion, they'd been cutting corners and breaking laws to stay afloat. Tax evasion, health code violations, even some questionable supplier deals. Now they were facing not just bankruptcy, but potential criminal charges. "We need your help," Dad said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Your business expertise, your connections. You could save us." I sat there stunned. My parents, who had thrown me out on false pretenses and always seen me as second best, now saw me as their only hope. "Let me get this straight," I said, struggling to keep my consulting poker face. "You kicked me out, believed the worst of me without any proof, didn't contact me for 3 years, and now you want me to bail you out of your illegal activities?" Mom tried to reach across the table to grab my hand. I pulled back. "We know we don't deserve your help," she said, tears in her eyes. "But we're still family. We don't know what else to do. Please." Family. That word again. But as I looked at them, I realized they weren't my family anymore. Aunt Victoria, she was family. She had supported me unconditionally. My family was the friends I'd made at work and in my MBA program who valued me for who I was. I took a deep breath. "I'm sorry," I said, and I was surprised by how steady I felt. "But I can't help you." "What you're asking? It's not just about money. You're asking me to risk everything I've worked so hard to build. My career, my principles." I can't do that." Their shocked expressions were almost comical. They clearly hadn't expected me to say no. Dad's face colored with anger. "After everything we've done for you," I cut him off. "What have you done for me? You mean denying me support for my education when you paid for Paige's? Throwing me out on false evidence and favoring her my entire life? The final decision." Mom was openly crying now. "Please, sweetie, we'll lose everything." I felt a small pang of guilt. Then I remembered the past 3 years, the struggle, the pain, and the growth and success I'd achieved on my own. I stood up. "I'm sorry you're in this situation, but these are the consequences of your own actions. I can't save you. We'll be ruined," Dad shouted as I turned to leave. I stopped and faced them. "What do you want from me?" I asked. "I want you to face the consequences of your actions. I want you to understand what you lost when you threw me out. But mostly, I want to be free of your drama and manipulation." Taking action. I walked out of the coffee shop and onto the street. As I stepped back into my office building, I felt like a weight had been lifted. I had finally stood up to them, set my boundaries, and faced them down. But the story doesn't end there. I thought about that confrontation. I realized that just walking away wasn't enough. My parents' actions were illegal, and if they continued, others could get hurt. So I had to make a tough decision. I reported what I knew about the restaurant's illegal operations to the relevant authorities, the police, the IRS, and the health department. It wasn't an easy decision, but I knew it was the right one. The fallout was swift and severe. Paige called me screaming and crying, accusing me of destroying the family. My parents' voicemails alternated between begging for help and threatening legal action. But I stood my ground. I told the authorities what I knew and made it clear that I had no involvement in any illegal activities. Aunt Victoria stood by me through those difficult weeks, assuring me I was doing the right thing. From what I hear, the restaurant has been shut down pending a thorough audit. Paige and my parents are facing serious legal consequences. It's not a happy ending, but it's a just one. Epilogue. As for me, I'm doing okay. Actually, better than okay. There's a sense of closure with everything. I've finally broken free from the toxic family dynamics that held me back for so long. My career is thriving. I've even been approached about a potential promotion. My colleagues have been incredibly supportive throughout this whole process, making me feel like I found a true professional home. My relationship with Aunt Victoria has never been stronger. We're planning a vacation together once all this stress dies down. Something to look forward to after all this chaos. I won't pretend it's been easy. There are moments when I question if I made the right choice and feel guilty. But when I think about all the pain they caused me, the years of manipulation and favoritism, I know I made the right decision. So here I am. 3 years ago, I was kicked out of my home, confused and alone. Now I'm independent, successful in my career, surrounded by people who genuinely care about me, and finally, free from my family's toxic influence. Some might have hoped for a happy family reunion, but this is my story, and I'm proud of how far I've come. If you're struggling with toxic family members or difficult choices, remember this. You have the right to prioritize your own well-being. You have the right to set boundaries. And sometimes the family you choose matters more than the one you were born into. The end.